Alright, what is up YouTube? So, a little bit of an update. We got the passenger side floor pan welded in. That is all done. Like I said, I welded the frame first onto the frame rail, and then I kind of worked my way out and around the perimeter and all that. Getting this to fit was a little difficult. It took some massaging. I got all my stuff through CJ Pony Parts, but you know, I had to trim a little bit. I had to hammer it a little bit, but all in all, it fit pretty well. The rear ones fit pretty well, so I gotta say I'm pretty impressed. As you can see, we are getting ready to put the new suspension on. That's your QA1 setup. Here this is the old strut coils. Now I cut the coils. If you're obviously going to reuse them, you don't want to cut them. You got to get a spring compressor. I'm not a big fan of the spring compressors. It kind of geeked me out a little bit. But yeah, so I cut these, and then these are pretty simple. There's 2 bolts on the bottom. They bolt to your upper control arm, and then there's 3 bolts up top. So these 3, and basically can't really see. Yeah, you can see a little bit. There's one there and one in the back. This has to come off yet. It's 2 bolts right there and right there. That'll take, this holds the bottom of your shock, actually your coil spring and your shock. So my QA1 shocks come with new mounting hardware and all that. So yeah, so this is where we're at. You can't really see, but we coated all of the inner fender well with this 415. Talked about it before. It's rust preventative stuff. This is the metal prep for it, and the cleaner and degreaser before you apply it. So I think tomorrow, where it's Saturday, Monday, we're gonna install the shocks. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's not. Outside of it being fully adjustable, this bolts to your upper control arm. These are your mounting bolts. That's your adjuster and insulator. And then this will bolt to the top of your shock tower. You got the 3. And then there's a hole right there. And that goes in through here. And that is essentially for your shock. And then you obviously put that on. And then you put it up as one piece up in there. These are a little bit of a lowering shock, so you can actually get away with not having to compress that spring to put them on. The instructions pretty much say you feed them up in there. The other thing you have to do when removing the shocks is remove your shock tower brace. It's 2 9/16 bolts, front and back, and the bottom one right here for your shock, these are 1/2 inch. You might need to jack up on the lower control arm. You jack up on it, you can get to the back strut bolt a little better. So you just take like your floor jack and jack it up, and I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. If you are going to have to compress the shock, triple check before you compress it, because if one of them slides off, it's a bad day. So it's obviously starting to come together. I'll do a video after we're done doing the front sway bar and adding the new shocks, and then I'm going to cut the driver's side floor pan out and install the other subframe connector, and I might get the heater box in this week. I'll do a video on rebuilding the heater box and kind of what I did for that. So again, this is kind of just a patient process. Measure, massage these things in, take your time. I'm not a professional. I'm sure a professional can do it in double the time. I, did all my measurements, did a little storyboard, if you want to, per se, and, checked everything. It started going much smoother. Again, sorry for the noise. I have the torpedo heater going, but I have the titanium welder from Harbor Freight. It's done a wonderful job. Once you get your gas dialed in and your wire speed and volts, amps, sorry, things get better. Essentially, I have it set for my floor pans at 6 for your wire speed and 4 for amps, and my gas I have anywhere from 20 to 25. So the only thing I will say is those regulators are a little chintzy. I want to upgrade regulators. As you go lower in your shielding gas, your regulator jumps up. I'm not a big fan of that. So, like I said, it was a slow process. If you have not been here before, I had to make patch panels for these are torque boxes, and over there as well, recoated the whole entire rear section with pour 15. We're going to do the same thing for the front, and we're doing the same thing underneath the fender wells up to the firewall. So basically it's doing everything we can to take the rust out and minimize it from rusting later. We're going to be doing, if you're new carpets, headliner, new seats, reupholstering the rear seats, new center bezel that actually accepts the gauges, so it actually looks like those gauges belong there. So I mean, there's a lot to do. We're dropping the rear end out of the car, do the leaf springs, we're adding a rear sway bar. So, but this is where we're at. I'm going to start gaining steam now because we're about to get spring here in Pennsylvania, so I'm hoping in the next 2 months to have this thing all back together. So just remember patience, pay attention to detail. Like these are your seatbelt. For your seatbelts on the back side underneath the car, there's you have to tack weld on the threads, so you actually put your seatbelts back in. So it's like little things like that. On this passenger side floor pan underneath, there's a bracket for your emergency brake. It's the same thing on the driver's side, so you have to take that off the old floor pan, retack it onto this floor pan. It's little things like that. That way the car goes back together, it operates as it did. So this was a learning experience. I've never done this before, but as I'm going along with it, it's becoming a lot more fun. I understand the welding settings more. I understand the thicknesses of metal and how to work that. I'm a little better with measuring everything and understanding how floor pans work. There's a lot of good YouTube videos out there. It'll teach you how to dial in your welder, the sound of the welder, how to weld, spot welds, angle welds, stuff like that. So, thank you again for watching this. I hope this helps anyone. Any questions, leave it in the comments. Until next time.